All right, so this is going to be an interesting message. It's so different than what I thought I was going to be saying today. So a lot of the stuff that's on your notes today, we're not going to even get to. So that's just kind of how it is once in a while. Sometimes things just go like that. So when I was a freshman in high school, many of you know that that's when I heard about Jesus and it clicked for me for the first time. Up until then, I'd heard about Jesus. Like many of you, I'd been to church on Christmas and Easter, and I'd heard God, Jesus, all of those stories. So I knew some of the stories, but I didn't know that you could know him. I knew about him. I didn't know you could know him. And then in that church in 1984, as that person was explaining to me who Jesus was, what he'd actually done for me, and that I could have his gift of forgiveness and life with him, and I bowed my head and prayed with no expectation of change, everything changed. My whole life changed. There was my life before Jesus and my life after Jesus. And I was so excited, and I've told you before that even though I was a freshman in high school, I wanted everyone to know that you could know God. And I knew they didn't know. I knew, like me, they were believing that, this is just about information about God, not that you could actually know him. And so I started wearing Christian buttons every day as a freshman in public school, right? So I've told that story before. But it was just my heart's desire to talk about Jesus without knowing the words. I wasn't in a church that was going to teach me how to talk to. Now, here's how to share Jesus with someone else. I didn't know what to say, but I wanted people to know. So it makes me, I'm telling you that because it's like this whole track was unleashed in my life, but at the same time, there was all this old stuff too. For instance, by that time, I was really, really focused on trying to get the kids around me to like me and please people. So it's this contrast. I'm wearing these buttons, which don't get me very much liked, but I want Jesus. But there's another situation. I've never told this story. There was a kid in my class. I don't think he'd been in the class for very long. I think he had just moved there. His dad was a pastor. And he was really awkward socially, dressed weird, and he was a PK, that's what everybody called him, pastor's kid, and he was the subject of incredible verbal abuse. Everybody had one nickname for him, and it was Spaz. And so this poor kid got just verbally picked on constantly. So here I am, I'm a brand new Christian, I'm excited about Jesus, I'm wearing Christian buttons, and everyone's picking on Spaz. And all I can hear in my heart at that time is, you need to stand up for him, and you need to be his friend. And I would love to tell you that as a young Christian, as a 14-year-old kid, that I had the courage to stand up against the bullying and join him, and I didn't. As a matter of fact, sometimes I joined in with him. And partly because I didn't want them to turn on me. And if they're picking on Craig, then they wouldn't be picking on me. And the stupid thing about it is, you do all of that to try and gain the approval of kids that you don't even really like. Isn't that silly? So it's the first time I can remember in my life being really influenced by what people think about me and trying to earn their approval. So the phrase is, of course, people-pleasing. It's the habit of saying or doing things mainly to gain approval or avoid conflict or to be liked, often at the expense of your own needs, values, or calling. Like, I was not called in that school to join in the teasing. That's not what God wanted for me. But people-pleasing pushed out what God wanted for me. It has a tremendous negative effect. Matter of fact, I'm talking about this because, and I talk about this regularly because everything I'm reading about our society says the more we're locked into this, the more people-pleasing becomes a huge issue. Because it's all about approval. So people are afraid to take risks because what will the social media people say? And if I post this, what will they say? And so we have all these pretty filters to make us look like we don't even look like, because what will people say if they see me? And so there's so much being written about this. It's such a problem, and it's resulting in things like this, right? A lack of assertiveness and difficulty saying no and no boundaries in people's lives. And this is a huge one. We don't even know how to do conflict at all. So we avoid it constantly. And so much social peer pressure and giving in on things that we shouldn't be giving in on because we want people's approval and want people to like us and we want all of this. And so a lot's being written about this. So here's what I want you to think about as we get started today. I want to put this scale up here. On a scale of 1 to 10, how much is peer pressure an issue in your life currently? So just pick a number. Where do you think you fall? 10 being, it's a big issue in my life. 1, not at all. Some of you, it's at the 1 or 2. It's never been an issue for you. Like, if my dad were in the room right now, my dad would be like 1. And he thinks it's ridiculous that anyone ever struggles with this, okay? So some personalities, that's how they are. They've never struggled with this, never will. You have other struggles, but you don't have this one, right? So, but some of you, it's like, oh, it's towards the middle. Some of you, it's higher. Okay, so now with the number in mind, I want to ask you a few questions and see if your number changes. Have you, in healthy relationships, there's give and take, right? Give and take. Have you ever been in a relationship where it was a lot of giving and very little receiving back? Ever been in one of those relationships? Have you ever walked out of a room or out of a meeting wishing you had said something that you did not say? You ever compromised your values like I did in high school with that conviction I had not to join in, and I joined in? You ever given in to peer pressure? Have you ever in your life said yes when every part of you wanted to say no? Have you ever made compromises that you regretted? Have you ever been silent about your faith when you had the opportunity to talk about Jesus, but you were so afraid of how they reacted, you said nothing at all? So did your number change? Could it be that this is a bigger issue in your life than you'd even thought about coming into this today? So we're starting a brand new series today, and we're calling it I Quit. I Quit. And it's going to be talking about some things we have to let go of in life in order to really step into the life that God has for us. And that's what he has for you. It's life. You will not have life if people pleasing takes over. And so we want to talk about this. How do I quit trying to please everyone? So I want to ask you to open your program, take out the notes you'll find inside. Grab your notes, grab a pen. Welcome, of course, those of you who are watching online. Glad you are watching. If you want to get our notes, you can go to our website at Peniel Church Life and grab our notes as well. So important to talk about this today. Let's jump right into it. So the first couple of things, by the way, if you've heard me talk about people pleasing before, these first 2 things, they're not going to be new. You've heard me, but everything after that is going to be new. So the first thing, and this was a game changer for me when I learned it a long time ago, learn the secret of delay. Learn the secret of delay. And this is going to happen to some of you in the next week or in the next month. You're going to be set with your plans, and all of a sudden you're going to phone call from somebody who's, do you have people in your life that are really kind of forceful and really kind of pushy, and it's really kind of hard to say no to them? They don't take no for an answer. So they're going to call you, and they're going to say, oh my goodness, I really need you now, and you got to come and do this. You got to, and you're going to be like, oh, and you are kind of overwhelmed at the thought of it because you already have so much planned, and it's like, oh, what do I do? What do I do? And you're going to feel pressure, and some of you are going to give in, and you're going to say yes when you want to say no, and then it's going to cause all this extra chaos in your life. And we give in for lots of reasons, right? We don't want to let them down. We don't want to deal with the anger if we say no to them. And so we're going to give in. So one of the keys that I learned a long time ago that saved me so much is pause when you feel pressured. Pause when you feel pressure. When you feel pressured to make a decision in the moment, that's when you hit the pause button. And what you're going to say is this: let me check my calendar, or some variation of that. It doesn't have to be those words exactly. Let me check my calendar. Let me give it some thought. Let me see if I can make it happen. Let me talk to my spouse. Some version of that, right? Doesn't matter which one you use. You're going to be saying, that's the one I use all the time. Let me check my calendar. In all the years of you doing this, there has never been one time a person has said, no, you can't check your calendar. You're going to answer me right now. Nobody ever says that. They're all willing to let you go check your calendar. So they may push and push and push, but they'll give in on that one. So okay. So then and the key to that is you're creating separation between you and the pushy person. When you have pushy people, this is what you need to do. So you're creating a pause, space, so they're not right on the phone or right in your face trying to get you to comply. So what you do then is when you've hit the pause button, now you have to consider the request. So again, this isn't new, but I need to review this because it's really important. So now you're going to consider the request. Years and years ago, I got a phone call from a a community member who wanted me to serve on a committee. And it was for a nonprofit that I really liked. And they wanted me to play this role on this team. And it was quite an honor. And I was really, thank you for this. But I said, let me, hit the pause button. Let me give it some thought. I'll give you an answer by the end of the week. And so then consider the request. So here are the questions I want you to learn to ask that are on the back of your notes. What do I want to do? In that case, I actually wanted to be on that team. But here's the second question. Will saying yes cause me to slip into hurry? And we talked about this in the series we did before this about things that are toxic for your soul. Being hurried is toxic for your soul because what gets pushed out in a world that's super busy is God. And if you just keep saying yes and yes and yes and yes, then you will not hear from God. If you overpack your life, God will be gone. So will it cause me to slip into hurry? Some of you are like, I always live there. Okay, well then you might have to back off a little bit. What's the right choice in light of my current situation? And at the time I was working 6 days a week all the time, many times 7 days a week. If I wasn't afraid of disappointing them, what would I choose? I wasn't afraid of disappointing this person. But here's the big one again as Christians. Father, what do you want me to do? And we are trying to always say to God when an opportunity comes up, God, is this something that you are asking me to be a part of? In light, just like Jesus did when he said, Father, not my will, but yours be done. So is this what you want me to do? So I processed these questions, and I ended up calling him back and saying, nope, I'm sorry. In light of my schedule right now, I just can't say yes to this, but thank you for this. And he was super kind. Gracious. It wasn't a big deal at all. But are they always super kind and gracious when you say no to them? Are people always kind and gracious when you say no? Of course not. So that's why you have to be prepared with your no. And we've talked about this before too. Remember no is a complete sentence, right? It's a complete sentence. No. And you have the right to just say, no, I don't want to do that. Be clear and confident in your no, because pushy people will try and back your no down, and keep your explanation brief. If you're going to add to it, and I'm the kind of person who likes to say a little bit more, I don't just say no. I'll say, no, it's not going to fit my schedule. But whatever answer you give, you keep it brief. No, not at this time. Because we talk about this, a broken record, and I've taught on this before. You know what? Some of you don't have record players. You know what this is like. But when we were growing up, we had record players, although they're pretty popular now again. If you know what it's like, if a record's playing along and it skips, it'll just keep repeating that over and over and over again until you get up and move the needle. And so that's what we're saying you have to be. You have to be a broken record. You have to literally say, no, I'm sorry, it's not going to work out this time, but I need you there. Don't you know I can't get this done without you? No, I'm sorry, it just won't work out at that time. But it's got to be done. I mean, you're going to cause the whole thing to fail. Well, I'm so sorry, but I just can't make it work in my schedule at this time. But you don't understand. If you don't show up and the world's going to end and chocolate won't taste good and all these bad things, and they're going to just put all this pressure on you to try and make you cave. And you just broken record them. Nope, sorry. No, I'm sorry, it's just not going to work. It's just not going to work. It's just not going to work. And you continue to say it until the conversation comes to an end. That's broken record. Okay? So, now, the problem with all of this is it sounds so easy to sit here in this room and you're not dealing with any pushy people right now. Nobody's asking you for anything. And so, in this context, it can be easy to say, okay, well, this all makes sense. And then you leave. And then you got to deal with a pushy coworker, a pushy boss, or a pushy neighbor who wants you to do things or whatever. So here is where everything really changed for me this last week. So I'm going to give you this one, and this is all we're going to talk about. So everything else on your notes we're not getting to today, so I left it filled in for you. You have to surrender the outcome of your decision to God. Surrender the outcome of your decision to God. So I'm going to need some grace with everything I'm about to explain, because all of this that I'm sharing with you today is really, really new in my life. learning to give outcomes to God and results to God is not something I'm good at. I'm very, very competitive, and I want to win at everything, and I always want the results. And if I can't get the results, then I find a way to get the results, regardless of what that means sometimes, like work 7 hours, work all the time, do whatever it takes. That's kind of this. And so this whole idea of letting go, I am not good at this. Especially when you want, then you wrap up people pleasing in that, and you want to control how people look at you, how people respond to you. This is all new to me. Okay, so I'm going to only be able to explain what I've learned so far. But this is why it's important. My senior year in high school, we had moved to a new city, and it was a smaller school, smaller community, and my faith was super important to me, but in that new school, I did not wear Christian buttons. So my faith was a little bit more private. I'd learned from my freshman year and just didn't want to be the new kid that did that. So maybe I shouldn't have, but I was afraid. I was afraid how people would respond to me. But thankfully, loved sports, very athletic, lots and lots of relationships through the sports teams. And I cared about the kids that I went to school with, and I would pray for them all the time. And one day, my senior year, we were on the golf bus. So there's only varsity and JV teams. So there's 10 of us on the bus. We're driving back from a competition, and Kevin is sitting right behind me. We're at the back of the bus, and Kevin says, "Hey guys," and he starts telling everybody this story, and everybody's looking at him. And he says, "I had this weird thing happen last week," and he said, "This guy came to my house, knocked on the door, and he wanted to talk to me about God at my front door. And he said to me, Kevin, if you died today and you were standing in front of God, and God said, 'Why should I let you into my heaven?' How would you answer him, Kevin?" And Kevin said, I didn't know what to say. How do you answer that question? And I'm sitting there going, wow, this is amazing. And then, I kid you not, Kevin looks at me and goes, "Brian, how would you answer it?" And all of a sudden, this incredible fear just settles over me. It's like, if I know the answer, but if I tell them what I really believe, they might laugh at me, or might they think I'm stupid, or they might not want to be my friends because I got good friends on the golf team. And so I said a little thing about, I just believe in God or something, and it wasn't at all what I meant to say or should have said, and missed that entire moment. Because I was all about controlling the outcome. I was going to control how they looked at me. And because of that, I missed that opportunity, and I have never forgotten it. Have you ever had that happen to you? You ever been in a moment where you had an opportunity to say something about the God that you love? And you were so concerned about the outcome that it caused you to freeze. So, this is all new to me, so give me some grace as I try and explain this, okay? So, here's what I know. It starts with this. You got to get clear about what you are responsible for and what you're not responsible for. What you are responsible for and what you're not responsible for. What are you responsible for? In the eyes of God, when God holds us accountable someday, it will be for our thoughts, my feelings, my reactions, my choices, my words, these things. What I am not ever responsible for are your thoughts, your feelings, your reactions, your choices, and your words, right? I am not. God will never, in eternity, when my time on earth comes to an end, I stand in front of God, God will not say, "Brian, why did you make them say these words?" All right? Or why did you make them make this choice? He'll never say that. That's a conversation he'll have with them, not me. So what it means is, with this idea of surrendering the outcome to God, is you stop trying to control their opinion of you. And again, I'm going to say this to you, but this is incredibly hard to do if you struggle. If your number is a 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, this is hard, okay? You are going to accept that God's will may not involve universal applause. Right? Did Jesus receive universal applause when he was here on earth? Did everyone just love everything Jesus said? Think about that. Even Jesus couldn't please people, but you're going to do it? You believe your identity and value are secure in him, so even if somebody rejects you, they laugh at you. So even if I would have, in that moment, think about that. On the bus, I'd have said, you know what, listen, Kevin, I'll tell you, Jesus Christ completely changed my life a few years ago. I thought it was just about knowing about God, and then all of a sudden this one night I was told this, and I explained it to him, and all of a sudden my whole life has been different, Kevin, and that's what I would tell you, is that if you will let Jesus Christ, he will forgive you, and he will change your life. And if I'd have said that on the bus, some of them would have, who knows how they would have responded, right? Some would have respected it. Some would have been confused by it. Some may have made fun of me, laughed at me, and never talked to me again, or called me the weird name from then on. Who knows? Maybe I became Spaz. So who knows? But regardless of how people respond, my identity and value are secure in him. Regardless. They don't change that. God has already declared. And I act in love and truth and release the results to him. Again, this is all so easy to say, surrendering the outcomes to God. So typical God, when I'm talking about something, which is why this message changed so much, he gave me the opportunity to experience it. So here I am at this age and still one trying to control people's impressions of me. So I told you a few months ago, the CEO at the company where I work gave me permission to do a leadership development program. But to my surprise, he said every single leader in the entire organization is going to go through it, including himself, the CEO, and his direct reports, the executive leadership committee. So all 135 leaders in the organization are going through this, and I'm going to lead the whole thing. So I was excited. And if you know anything about the way I prep, I was really well prepared. And we decided to launch half the leaders now. We'll launch the other half in Q1 of next year. And so this week was the launch week. So there were 4 sessions with leaders. Monday was a live session. Tuesday was a virtual. Wednesday was a live and a virtual. So 4 on Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. I'm completely prepared. Monday starts sitting in a room, 20-some leaders, and we get started with this. And I'd already piloted it a couple of times, so I'm as prepared as I can be. And we get started, and unfortunately, the room is kind of hot and humid, and they've got this box over it, so it's locked, so we can't adjust the thermostat, which my wife would like to do to me. But then the heat's on. And so I'm sitting in a room for an hour, and with this, it's packed, and the heat is just rising. So I'm sweating, and people are sweating, and we got fans going, and of course, that's not really good for paying attention. 2 things you don't want when you're speaking to your audience: super hot and super cold. So people are so uncomfortable as I'm talking about this. So I'm sitting there going, oh my goodness, what the heck? And then they're very quiet, because 20 minutes of it was self-reflection. You have to answer all these really difficult questions about your own leadership, but they are so quiet, they don't talk. So that doesn't make me feel good, because I'm trying to get them to engage with me, and they're just so silent. So it ends, session 1, Monday. And I don't know how it's gone. So we do our testing, and the results come back really good, but not great. And I'm a little frustrated about the room, so I get that box unlocked before Wednesday, my next one. So that's Monday, then Tuesday, the virtual group. So this is even more leaders. And again, you got to remember, these are leaders all the way up to the senior leader, including that's the session my boss decides to attend. So I'm like, okay, no problem. Done virtual training for years. This is going to be easy. So the opening thing, I say to all of them, they have a binder they have to follow along with all the self-reflection questions. And I say, okay, all of you take out your binder. You all got your binder, right? If you didn't get your binder, let me know. But I know that our team has prepped these and mailed them weeks ago. We mail things out across our organization all the time. As a matter of fact, the person who did it never has a problem. Years and years and years and years and years of doing this every other week. We have to do this. Every other week as an organization. We never have a problem. Guess who has a problem? That day, Tuesday, I say, throw in the chat if you didn't get your binder. I didn't get it. I didn't get it. I didn't get it. I didn't get one. I didn't get one. I didn't get. My boss is watching all this as the chat just fills up with all these leaders all over the country who didn't get their binders. And I'm going, what? Because I saw the binders. I know we mailed them in plenty of time. Well, it turned out they'd gone to some of our headquarters, these regional headquarters, and the leaders had taken them. And even though all of them were labeled with people's names, they'd put them on their desk and never distributed them. So now we have to get them distributed in the middle of the session, and we have to put the links in. So I put the links in. So all of a sudden, and this thing is timed out. It's an hour. I get an hour with these leaders. So now all of a sudden we're delayed, and everything's falling behind. And so now I've got to cut things on the fly. I've got to move things along faster. I don't have time for any kind of discussion, and this group wants to talk. So now I don't have the discussion time anymore, and so we're flying through, and I'm just cutting on the fly because we got to end on time. You cannot go over with leaders. Cannot go over. And so I get through all of this. We send out the initial results on that one, and my scores go way down, and I don't blame them. So I'm feeling terrible about how this has gone, and that's the one my leader goes to. Of course. So I sat down Tuesday afternoon, I started thinking about what am I, this is what it's let go of controlling how people respond to us, how they think about us. Yeah, go ahead and try and do that in that context. So I started thinking about, somewhere write that down, how people respond to us, how they think about us, what they think about us. That's what releasing outcomes to God is all about. So I started making a list. Well, because I was feeling stressed and anxious, it's like I want them to like me. Some of these leaders have never even been in a training session with me, and this is their first impression. First impression. I want them to think I'm good at my job. I want my boss to keep trusting me because I have a great working relationship with her. And I want the CEO to be happy that he decided that this was a mandated thing, that he and all of his senior leaders are going through it. So needless to say, when I got to the end of Tuesday, I felt both of these things. I felt extremely stressed. And remember what I said? Your emotions are always a trigger that it's an opportunity to turn to God. Now, thankfully, I had done something a while ago that I have never talked about. In your program, would you look and see there's a sheet in there called Practical Steps to Let Go of Outcomes. Practical steps to let go of. I built this months and months ago and never talked about it. But I had a copy on my desk at home where I do my quiet time. And I just want to walk this through because letting go of outcomes takes off the pressure of trying to please people. So here are the steps. First, you name the outcome you're trying to control. Are you trying to control someone's opinion of you or their reaction to you or whether someone likes you or how someone looks at you? Like, oh, I want people to look at me as helpful or kind or competent. How about that one? Or whether someone is mad at you, right? So you're going to say, this is what I'm trying to control. Then ask yourself, why do you want it so badly? Right? And it's wrapped up in your identity or your fear or your ego or your security. For me, this has highest visibility. I mean, literally, if this goes terribly wrong, there could be some, I'm not saying there would be, but there could be some consequences. There will be some wouldn't trust me again. Some would think less of me, right? So there's fear, and ego. I like my things that I plan to go well. And when they don't go well, it doesn't feel good to me. Okay? So here's the turning point. Confess your desire to control. You surrender it to God in prayer, not once, but daily or hourly, or for me, every few minutes. It's like, oh God, I really want to control this, and I can't. I really want to control this. I can't control people's responses to me. I can't. Now, it doesn't mean you're off the hook. You don't have to do anything. You do what you can do faithfully. So you work hard, and you act in wisdom, and you do your part, but you stop short of trying to manipulate or force or control the result. Ultimately, outcomes are God's. Obedience is ours. Outcomes are God's. Obedience is ours. And you remember, God's plans don't depend on your performance. Now, this is where there were some big ahas for me this week. God is not weak, and his purposes won't fail if someone is disappointed in you. Even when things feel uncertain, he's still in control and still at work. Now, This is a newly formed thought, so I just want you to hear it. I don't know how to explain it better than this at this point in my life. For most of my life, most of my career, I worked in a church, and so it was always church stuff that I was doing. And it's only been in the last 9 years that I've had a full-time job, not at a church, and just did church on the side. So there is an unhealthy distinction in Christians' minds between what is secular and what is sacred. And we kind of separate them. Part of what happened this week was when I got to this one and I started praying about this, I literally had to come to grips with, do I actually believe that God will show up in my work environment and do his great grace among people who, many of them aren't even Christians? Will he do anything through me at work? So that may sound so stupid to you. Some of you figured that out a long time ago. But I only really came to grips with it this week. There is no place where God is not fully in control, even in a work environment where there are a lot of people who don't believe. He is the king. Watch your internal dialogue. Notice when you're obsessing about how something will turn out, and you're going to gently release that. This was my saying. I don't remember where I read it, but I loved it. I took a picture of it, and then I memorized it quickly. And so every time I was afraid, I'm like, well, I gave that to Jesus. He knows what to do with it. Every single time I gave that to Jesus. He knows what to do with it. So all the time I'm like, oh my goodness, what are my results going to be? What are my results going to be? I give that to Jesus. He knows what to do with it. And then you practice detachment, not indifference. Indifference is, I don't care what happens. That's a bad thing. And first, I could never fake it. If I'm doing it, then I care what happens. This is, I care, but I'm not going to be owned by this. And there's quite a difference between the two. And then I put this prayer down, and I took a picture of this prayer, and I prayed it all the time. Father, today I'll make plans, I'll work hard and love well, but I will not demand results. I give the outcomes of this day to you. I trust that being with you and under your rule is better than anything I might gain or lose today. And that prayer just completely changed me. Okay, so I'm telling you this whole context because I was a mess. I was a mess Tuesday afternoon and Tuesday evening. I was so worn out from trying to control what I cannot control, people's opinion of me, how they're thinking about me, that I was so completely exhausted that I was in bed at 8:30 on Tuesday night. I'm like, this cannot continue. So Wednesday morning, got up early, sat down, pulled out this sheet for the first time in my life, and started just walking through it slowly with God. Took a picture of that prayer, like I said, and I prayed it all day Wednesday. And then every time that thought came back up, it's like, oh no, because I had 2 more sessions to go on Wednesday. So every time the thought came up, it's like, you're going to blow it again Wednesday. It's going to happen again. This is going to be bad. And this time it's, by the way, with the CEO and his team and these other leaders. Oh, it's going to go bad, Brian. Every time I would go right back to that saying on there, about, I gave that to Jesus. He knows what to do with it. I gave it to Jesus. He knows what to do with it. So Wednesday comes, and the very first session is supposed to be in the morning with the CEO and his leaders, and it gets postponed. Okay? So now I only have 1 more session. It's in the afternoon. It's live, and so now I have to wait, which you may think sounds better. Oh, look, you got extra time. No, no, because the brain is really spinning, and every time it's spinning, and I'm tempted to be afraid, oh my goodness, it's going to go bad. They're going to think badly of me. This group's not going to like me. I immediately go back to Jesus. It's like, listen, this either works or I'm wasting my time. Either you can do what you've said, Jesus, and bring your character into my life, which is peace and joy, or I'm wasting my time. And it was incredible. So the afternoon session comes, back in the hot room. This time we've got the thermostat fixed. And I stand up with 0 anxiety, 0 fear, and 0 thought that I can control anyone's reaction in the room. None. Everything goes perfectly well. Finish it, we do our initial assessment, and everything comes out with best-in-class scores. And It was quite a learning week. I learned I'm really not in control. Oh, and by the way, I'm not perfect. No matter how hard we prepare, you will never be perfect. So people will always have a reason to reject you because you'll never be perfect. And I will never be able to control what others think of me, regardless of how hard I work and what I do. But God's grace is always here for me. God is willing to show up in the life of any human being who will simply turn to him and depend on him. That's the goal, is complete dependence on him. And then you get this one, and you always know which one you've got. If you have you and you're trying to control the outcomes, then you will be scared and you'll be anxious and you'll be worried and you'll want to work 7 days a week and try and control all of it yourself. Or when you bring it to him, then you can have peace and joy and confidence, even though we are in control of so little in this world. So little in this world. Okay. So, do you struggle with people pleasing? Again, for those of you who are like 1, 2, and 3, I'm so sorry you had to sit through this today. So maybe about somebody else, maybe you want to recommend this to somebody you know who struggles with it, okay? Those of you who are low in this one. But for all of you who do, learn the secret to delay. Someone pressures you, pushy, you hit that delay button, say, let me get back to you, got to check my schedule, and then process it with those wisdom questions. But no matter what you do, isn't this sentence true? I don't care what you choose in life. Someone's always going to be disappointed. Jesus disappointed people. So you and I have no shot of making it through this world without disappointing people. The perfect one couldn't do it. So stop trying to control those outcomes. Release your need to control how others see you and think about you. And remember, the outcome is God's business. Obedience is our business. We obey and trust in him that he will bring the outcomes he wants. Let me have you bow your heads. For some of you, this is a big deal. People pleasing and giving into pressure is really a struggle for you, and you want to control the outcomes, and this is just the beginning of a journey. I can't encourage you enough to take that sheet and put it somewhere where you have access to it. For me, thank goodness I had it on my desk this week because I absolutely needed it this week. So continue to make sure that you are turning to God for grace in those moments when you feel pressured and anxious and stressed about controlling the outcomes. His character is available to you through Jesus, the very character of God. But all of this begins with a decision to surrender your life in faith to Jesus Christ. When we've been singing about this God of grace who gave his life on a cross and took our place, that's what it's really about. On our own, we can never be okay with this perfect God. We are not perfect. So Jesus Christ came to give his life on a cross for what we've done that's wrong and the unloving things we've brought into this world. And he died on that cross, but he rose again because he is God the Son. And if you will let Jesus Christ, he will forgive you and give you his gift of eternal life. And you can have a new life with him now. So if you want this, with your head bowed, you can say something like this in your heart to him. You can say, Jesus, I'm turning to you today. I want your gift of forgiveness and your gift of eternal life. I heard that you died for me on that cross. Please forgive me as I give myself to you today. In Jesus' name, amen. Thank you so much for taking the time to watch this service today. We hope as a church and pray that this was something that really helps connect you deeper to Jesus. That's what we're all about as a church. If you need to communicate with us, if you go online to penuelchurchlife.com, in the upper right-hand corner is a box that says, I said yes to Jesus. It also says, please pray for me. Just click on that, and it'll take you to a place where you can communicate with us as a church. So if you ever want any of the resources we mentioned in a service, go there and let us know. We'll gladly send them to you. Or if you made a decision to say yes to Jesus or you have a prayer request, just let us know. And we're always glad to hear from the people who are watching online. And if we can continue to help you grow in your faith in any way, then we want to do that. So again, thank you. And our prayer is that you continue to grow and connect and find the true life that Jesus Christ is offering.